Why was the book of Amos written? Let's look at Amos chapter 1. God's standard is universal. Now just imagine a courtroom where God Himself is presiding. He is not impressed by your wealth, your status, or reputation. He is looking at the hearts of all people, and He holds every nation accountable for injustice. So Amos was just a shepherd from Tekoa. He wasn't a prophet that had been trained in a palace. He wasn't a politician or a religious leader, just a simple man called by God. Yet God chose him to speak to kings, merchants, and powerful people. Why? Because God's standard does not depend on titles. It depends on whether our lives reflect righteousness. So in chapter 1, we see God raising his voice against the surrounding nations. There was Damascus and Gaza, Tyre, Edom, Ammon, Moab. Why? Because justice matters. Oppression and cruelty and violence, these things cannot go unchecked. And this is no mere history lesson. If God sees nations, he sees me too. If he judges injustice everywhere, he sees my life, my family, your family, your community. This is the principle that Amos begins with. He says, God's word is living. His standard is universal. Prosperity, religion, comfort, they cannot hide disobedience. So the author and the historical context we look at is Amos was from Tekoa, a little small village in Judah, and he was a shepherd and a caretaker of sycamore trees. He was not even a professional prophet. He didn't go to school, not a member of the elite. In the book of Amos, chapter 1 and verse 1, it tells us the timing as well. It was in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah, and Jeroboam, son of Joash, king of Israel. Israel enjoyed political stability, economic growth, and religious activity. We all got that going on. But beneath the surface, there was moral decay, social injustice, and spiritual complacency. The prophet Amos reminds us that God can call anyone, regardless of your status, to deliver his word. You remember Jonah, right? It is obedience and faithfulness, not position. Not this is what matters. So who is his audience? Amos was speaking primarily to the northern kingdom of Israel. At the time, Israel appeared strong, militarily, economically, and even religiously. Yet God saw their hearts, just as he sees ours today. So religious activity without obedience to his word is empty in his sight. In the book of Amos 5:21 through 23. Amos also pronounces judgment on the surrounding nations as well. He looked at Damascus, Gaza, Tyre, Edom, Ammon, Moab. This demonstrated that God's standards applies to all people. So Israel couldn't claim an exemption because of heritage or ritual or prosperity. The same aligned with the doctrine of Christ today, that salvation and accountability are personal. Aren't you glad? Each person is judged by God's word, not by external factors like what somebody else think. Look at this next point, the structure and the content of chapter 1. In chapter 1, it lays out a clear pattern. 1, God announces the nation. Number 2, he states the reason for the judgment. It was oppression, cruelty, violence. Number 3, he pronounces punishment. Here's some examples. For Damascus, for cruel wars. Gaza, for enslaving nations. Tyre, Edom, Ammon, Moab for violence and injustice. Now, you don't want to miss this. The key point: God does not punish arbitrarily. Judgment is based on moral accountability and disobedience to his word. So, in the next point, we explore the purpose of this chapter to establish God's standard. It was justice, righteousness, and obedience. These things matter more than outward displays. So faith must produce action. And number two, this was to warn Israel through examples. God judges other nations to show that his standard is universal. Israel, too, will be held accountable, though. So the application for us today, even before we discuss empty worship or comfortable hearts, Amos chapter 1 teaches us God sees the heart. This one. Our religious activity is meaningless without obedience. And number two, justice matters to God. Caring for the oppressed, practicing honesty, and living righteously are marks of genuine faith. God's standards is universal. There's accountability is personal and spiritual. Let's reflect here. Am I living in obedience to God's word? Do my actions reflect faith? Am I attentive to injustice? Am I willing to act righteously? Amos reminded us that worship, ritual, and comfort are meaningless if not paired with righteous living. So, in conclusion, the book of Amos chapter 1 shows us that God is just, his judgment is righteous, his standard is universal. Chapters 5 and 6 will examine Israel's internal condition. There was empty worship and comfortable hearts. So God's judgment is not delayed because of their status, their wealth, or outward activity. It is delayed until hearts are truly examined. Amos calls us to examine our own hearts. We must not just attend worship or offer sacrifices. We must live in accordance with God's word. Seek justice, love righteousness, and walk humbly before God. For only then will worship and life be united as he requires. May God continue to richly bless you. Thank you for allowing me to be in your space. Until next time.